spin some ideas, right? Talk, work with some other groupings of people, some other things. Let's throw some things out.
Unless anybody else want to?
Anybody in the back?
Well, first, we have an assignment to do, which is the assignment. What we have to put together today. What we have to put together today.
What we're trying to do is build a foundation, I believe.
Why don't we wait to the end?
Yes, okay.
And we'll
Yeah.
come back with some follow-up.
Yeah, go ahead.
On that. But I think somebody down here wants to say something.
He has his hand, he's been waving his hand.
Who? You. Thank you.
Go ahead.
You know, I'm listening because I the first time I'm here like you, and I'm kind of losing my focus because we have so many different ideas, and what I thought you were headed to initially was the development of data, information to give to the supervisor or the committee in order to get that project started that I wanted. There are multitudes of areas, and I agree. I got your email, and I was shocked because you know, and initially a long time ago I wasn't for a police commission, and man, I'm right there. You know, I think there has to be a party in between, but that's a different one. I think you're right. This group has to sustain itself because that's the problem with most groups. They're not sustainable because they're not focused. They don't have a vision. They don't have a priority. We're going to get this one done, and then we're going to get the second step done, and it starts to geometrically grow. And if we go in all these different directions, because we all want to feel good, we all want to be happy, but it has to start someplace. And I just think, get a focus, and let's do that, and then you can go to your next step.
I just want to mention something. As a group, even we have a target and a focus, we cannot avoid that. You know, I'm just going to be dynamic. And that's what also was discussed. I also lost track myself. And we cannot, you know, dismiss the dynamic because that's what is going to help us to work together. So once in a while, those things kind of fail off. But I also just want to acknowledge, I don't know your name. I so appreciate your comment because it is in the need of that transformation happen, and I think I really appreciate what you said.
What we talked about 2 weeks ago, excuse me, just 1 second, about the deliverable, the one thing that we wanted to package real quickly, and that was, I was in light disagreement with it. I'm a program guy. I want to do stuff. I want to dance. I want to paint. I want to sing. I want to run in the beach naked. I want to do stuff. I don't want to put shit on paper, you know. But I was overridden by consensus, and so what we want to do is a survey. We want to do something that we can present to the institutions. And so I think that that's what we agreed on. So that's where we're at today. But I was hoping that I could push concurrently the idea that we have some viable programming, some viable modalities that are working today. Community-based practices that are working. Defined practices. And they're going like this with our data gathering. So I'm thinking that we have to do both of those things. Yes, go ahead.
Is there any examples of something that is working that we know of right now?
Well,
Yes.
Yeah. And we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but the fact of the matter is, if we're going to move from point A to point B, we got to do the groundwork of information. Okay, this is the process. We all have programs in here. You got the Keys Leader. I mean, we could go down the list. You know, you guys got a program. You do hip hop stuff. I mean, you got to believe in yourself.
Oh, we
You know,
do.
and so-
The reason I was asking the question is because I'm trying to get a better idea, because as a group, what we're going to have to do is work together to make the best presentation of research. So if we have an idea of something that might be working now, that's something we can jump on the tail end of and run with that. So it's showing something that's work, it's process, it's progress, is what I mean. So we can jump on that for right now, and then all the different ideas that we come up with later, okay, that's fine, because we're going to have time to talk about it. We'll do that, but we need to focus on something that's working right now that we can jump on.
Yeah, so-
And that's what was posing my question.
If you go to your information, and I know we send a lot of emails out. We have 4 points, 4 steps that we outlined at the beginning of the meeting, and I've repeatedly said this, and we were going to summarize that at the end, but since we're in this sort of whirlwind, we want to get funding to do the needs assessment by population groups. Okay?
We agreed to that by consensus.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what we first need to do. We got to validate that we have needs in these various populations. And we're going to have a lead person work with that population group, and we have surveys and questionnaires that we're going to go out to our population groups and ask questions, you know, on what do you think about mental health? What do you think about this? What works for you? You know, all this other stuff that Debbie and others are going to design.
And once we have that questionnaire, Jim, we are going to train some of the people here
Yes.
to be ambassadors, promotores, to go out and do that, okay? So that's why it's important to do the research and show up. Because concurrent to what Jim was saying as well, to answer your question, Jim last week asked for a synopsis of programs that are working now.
That's 3.
And so Debbie was tasked with putting, you know, the finishing touches to that, so that we can, you know, look down and we have a menu of all the programs that are available now.
No,
So we're working concurrently like that,
Right,
right?
yeah, for sure. So which
Okay.
one are we gonna choose? We gotta pick one, right?
No,
it's not that?
No.
Okay.
They're all gonna be funded, brother.
I got it. No,
Okay,
I know
everybody's
that.
gonna give money.
So so what's gonna be at the top of the train that we're gonna say, all right, we're gonna use this one as the first one?
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example.
I just wanna get that, you know, as the focus, because that's where it needs to be important as far as getting.
No,
that.
it's not one program.
Right. No, I know that.
Hear me out. Hear me out what I'm saying.
Sure.
Because we have different population groups.
Definitely.
So it can't be one program that's going to serve maybe Filipino community. It's what the Filipino community says that they want to do
Right.
for their population, as well as for African Americans, as well as for, you know, each group will come up, each community will come up with what works best for them.
Right. So I said that wrong then. I asked the wrong question. I mean,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I meant, but I phrased that wrong. I
So
apologize.
what we're mirroring, and we have a blueprint that Russell talked about, the California Reducing Disparity, they've already done this on a statewide basis.
Mhm.
And they've outlined programs. If you look at the African American report, we have 200 programs within the African American community that people said, these programs work best for us. Okay? So as money becomes available, you go out and get funding to fund those programs. That's what the power of this group
And
is
in
going
the
to be.
last meeting, what we said, and perhaps you weren't here for that, and I'm sorry, but we asked everyone who had art programming that they felt was productive and would work with mental health to send me a brief synopsis of it, and then I would compile them so we have that beginning database of the programming, because that's just a process of getting to the focus of gathering the needs. That's the way that some groups can be served.
Right.
So if you can send me a brief one, 3 people sent me their summaries, and we think we probably have about 20 at least from this group. So we're trying
Send them to
to
Debbie.
compile those into a brief, basically a paragraph for each one, so that we could have that evidence when we make presentations.
This thing has kept me up a long period of time, and then I had a mental health crisis with a physical crisis, with an addiction crisis that kept me even further away. And so I thought, and I want to present it to some of you that have been here from day one, that I was in a crisis because I didn't have anybody to turn to. Typical Mexican with a Mexican son that's a professional that has multiple sclerosis as a primary issue, but then he's got substance abuse and mental health issues. I mean, this was just, and I have no one to turn to. So if I was doing a questionnaire for myself, the first question I would ask Armando Vasquez is, do you have sufficient culturally congruent mental health problems? I would say, hell no, absolutely not. I don't know what your question might be, but if you write it down, for example, if all of us write down that one question that is impacting us right today, then we already have a source of research information. I don't know if that's what you want, Benny, but that's something that, you know, I think that would help us to begin to develop a foundation. And that's, I'm just, suggesting that.
I understand that, and that's why I brought this along as the process, because I don't think we can just come up with a question. We have to develop a process for getting at a question, a real question.
So help us with the process, Benny.
The process, I would suggest, is let's do this alone. And then have this alone structured so that we can focus on a subject, a topic. And everybody can respond to that topic.
Okay.
And then out of that will
Give
come
us a topic, Benny.
ideas. Okay.
Give us a topic. Guide us.
Can
Okay.
Mark,
Yes,
wait, you
yes,
said
go ahead,
something.
Brad. But guide us, brother.
So, we're talking about flipping things earlier and talking to the system. There's certain things like, I'm involved in music because that's my therapy. So why don't we reverse the question as opposed to try to quantify it through questionnaires? Why don't we change the format? Why can't we quantify like this? I rap because that's my therapy. Why do I have to quantify that? You know what I'm saying? Why can't we find a way to express it differently, to word it differently to the system?
What the fuck
And
happens?
then they respect that as opposed to us trying to fix it.
That's why we need to hear from y'all.
That's
That's what Evan said. Yes,
It's not like a fix, it's more or less like, how can we help? It's kind of, nothing can be fixed. Nobody in this room can be fixed, what I mean? But we can be helped. I can get pissed off, I can hear a song that I like and I can calm down. That can fix me, that's helping me, you know what I mean? It's not fixing me, but it's helping me for my situation. So it's one of those things. So when I was asking like, all right, what are we gonna do? It's more or less like, what's the approach? I know it's not gonna be a systematic like questionnaire going down the line of what we do. That doesn't work. That's why we're sitting here, because that shit didn't work before. So we need to figure out what it is we're gonna do as a group together, as agreeing upon is what I mean. You know what I mean? What's the solution as far as like where we're gonna get to?
I like
So
that.
my big thing is that I think, just my idea is I have a brother personally. He's been since he's older than me, 17 years. He's been a paranoid schizophrenic since I've known him, you know what I mean? That's what I've always known him as, so that's just what it is. So now that I'm older, I understand a little bit more of the situation, and it's hectic. He's been in Hillmont. He just got out of a place in Sylmar like 3 months ago, you know what I mean? That shit's crazy. I talked to him a little bit about it, but he doesn't like to talk too much about it, so, he lives in a home in Ventura. I'd like to perform a study where he lives. I talked to him a little bit about, there's like, maybe 15 people in that house that he, something like that. I'd like to talk to that house owner. Hey, can we come in there and try anything? Get some suggestions from them. Bring some music over there. Bring some drum circles suggestions that we've had before. Something like that, so we can just kind of get an idea of what to expect and kind of get an idea of what we need to help.
So in this classical situation, we have artists and we have academic, right? And they're going, and we can get both, right?
Yes.
And that's what's gonna be beautiful
Yes,
about this, right?
exactly.
Yes,
It
yes,
has to be in our language as
Yes.
opposed to us trying to.
great.
So
Right.
one
Make
of
a
my
link.
main questions to Armando during the break was, what do we have for patient advocacy, which is kind of what you're talking about right
Right.
now. As far as patient advocacy, there are advocates for patients, but they're not people that, like, if I had an advocate assigned to me, I don't necessarily trust that person, so I'm not gonna be, we need to create where we can be those advocates for the people, so that they know who we are, they know what we're about, and they know how we can help them.
Right on.
Because I know when I was in there, I tried going to every person, every visitor I had, my mom, my dad, my husband, everybody, and there was no advocate for me other than Rosa Guillen, who was currently locked up with me at the same time. There is nobody there to be able to be that cushion between what is already set in place and the people who have the issues. If there could be somebody set there to be able to say, look, this person responds best to music therapy. This person responds best to meditation. This person responds best to physical activity. In the holistic community, that's what we try and focus on, is the whole body, the whole being, the spiritual, the physical, the mental, emotional, and everything all together. Mental health is one part of whole healthness. Physical health is one part. So we need to find a way to make all these parts move together. And I really like what Bong said when he was talking about not having one person that's leading the group, because honestly, when the two of you said, know your research, you don't know me. You don't know where I've come from. You don't know how much research I've done. I, from a very young age, have been researching on rape, on molestation, on all these things, PTSD and what it does to people. I've researched it because I've lived it. I also have a heart condition that I've dealt with for my whole life. When it comes to research, you want me to research something, I will research it and I will have every answer out there for you. I will put it together in a document. I will put it in readable form for the higher ups, for the legal system, and I'll put it in common
That's exactly
sense
what we
words.
want.
That's what we need.
Where,
That's why you're here.
where you can be able to read it
That's
to
why you're
somebody who's in elementary school and they would understand it.
The
So-
research was meant for what we're doing here. We never presume to know you anywhere
No,
else.
no, no. I know,
We're-
but
we're
I'm
talking
saying
about
for
here,
other
so
people
we're talking
listening here.
about, Debbie we always say, one, know your history within the specific group. We have to know what we're throwing out at, what we're reaching at. And one of those requirements is we gotta show up as much as we possibly can, we gotta read our notes, we gotta be passionate. The other,
One
yes,
thing that she
yes,
mentioned, you just described the cultural community ambassador.
Yes, yes.
That's what we're trying
Yes.
to create. It's a
Yes.
recovery sort of training, recovery model training. It's the cultural, aspects. It's not the traditional client advocate. This is the new paradigm. So you just basically described where we're headed and what we're trying to attempt to do with this
The
program.
question is, and the paradox here and the conundrum here is, how do we do this? We just do a questionnaire, or we do what Mark is suggesting, what Armando suggested is we get funky and we get
It's
busy.
a combination of all.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we do the cultural ambassador, the mental health. We can do all three things at a time. Is that taking on too much?
I think,
That's, yes.
I think so.
Okay.
Because for me, it's getting too specific. It's getting down in the weeds.
Good.
You're getting to the point where you're dealing with people who have issues that are manifested, that are already diagnosed. I'm talking about, I'm pushing for moving at the prevention level, keeping people from getting into that state.
Okay.
So prevention, we need to ask different kinds of questions.
Okay.
We need to research, do different kinds of research.
We can bring it-
And that kind of research has to do with what makes us as a group so vulnerable to the development of illnesses. And I come from looking at illnesses that are related to substance abuse. What makes us as a population vulnerable? What makes us susceptible to becoming ill, becoming an abuser, becoming an addict, an addict? And I'm saying that there are certain things that we can point to together. We live in a social environment that's America, that is poisonous. It is killing us, each and every one of us, and we don't know it. We need to be able to ask that question. What is it about life in America that's making us sick?
So how do we put that in a questionnaire? Yes.
You don't-
We have to have an environment that is safe.
It's
Let
not,
the expert.
it's not a prescription for a program.
Yeah.
It's a prescription for an approach for looking at an issue. We're gonna look at vulnerability, not disease, but vulnerability to become disease. So what is it about that, and I can give it to you in a very, very technical language. A prevention prescription, and I can give it to you so you can look at it and you can have it to read for yourself. And so you can make sense to it.
So for the sake of time.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, for the sake of time, I think that this discussion, we probably need to take up.
Yes, some of
You know-
them.
Excuse me, can I interject for a
Yes.
minute? Because I've been trying to get in
Yes,
here.
go ahead,
Can a
brother.
brother say something?
Yes.
Can a brother say something? I think you guys are bugging me. You guys are really bugging me. I've been raising my hand over here. A black man been raising his hand. Ain't nobody gave me I'm not being disrespectful, but I've been over here.
Go ahead, brother.
And I've raised my hand almost 15 times. Debbie saw me.
Go ahead, brother.
Let me tell you guys, I work with Jim on the statewide level with Remco. Okay, but you guys talking about y'all going tit for that and all that. Let's be real. John came up with a good point. We need to have an agenda. Let's start from A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We can even go to Z. Okay, but we need an agenda. And let's attack everything. And as we attack those points, whatever bullet points it is, we're going to have some deliverables. Meaning if we want the police to stop doing what they're doing, we're going to ask them. And we're going to tell them, stop doing what you're doing. I've been trying to get in there and tell you guys this. On the statewide level, me and Jim doing some good things in Sacramento. Okay? But for me, it was a lesson to learn how to deal with all these different things that are happening. I mean, I got people in my family that are in jail. I got people in my family that's going through schizophrenia. So all of us got all these similarities. But as we go through this process, let's get a list and say, this is what we're going to attack. This is what we're going to attack. And as a group, when we meet here on Cafe on A, next Wednesday, done. Next Wednesday, done. We're going over all these things that we're going to attack and go to whoever, whether it's the councilman or the city official, wherever. Let's cover this. Okay? Because all of us have a good point. Okay? I deal with the hip-hop community. I deal through music, hip-hop, through therapy. We've been talking about in Plaza Park doing a drum session. I play drums. I've been playing drums since I was 5 years old. Good drummer. And what we used to do in LA, go to the park right there, Griffith Park, and start playing drums. Just start with one drummer. Within 15 minutes, you got 100 people. That's the way it works. Like an African community, an Indian community, okay, a Mexican community. It all goes back to the drums. So all I'm saying to you guys is let's get a list to what Jock was saying. Let's get a starting point. Let's stop talking about this, and this, because we all gonna sit here all day long and keep going. So I'm saying at the end of the day, did we help her? Did you help me? Did I help you? At the end of the day, we all gonna say, well, wait a minute, we're still working on it. It's not good enough. Get it done. That's all I had to say.
Right on, brother.
I have a question since a while. I know the value of the survey. We've done that in so many ways, especially in psychology. But also, I like the idea of being embedded, doing it underground, because there's another way to do it, is to measure a group, right? A group of people with affected by such a thing that take, for example, art, to take music, and after a certain amount of time, what we can measure as a change, you know? And in that way, I like the idea of a model that is also practical, because what people share is important, but I think when change happens, it's also important. So I don't know if there's room for that, but if there's room for that, I may also.
Yeah, let me summarize, because I'm going to have to go to another meeting. But I think we've heard a lot of different approaches to doing the research. This is community participatory process. So there can be ways of, because we have to speak to the system, and in order to speak to the system, you got to use the system's language and tools.
Some of us, Jim, agree that we have to speak to the system.
Well,
So
let
I'm-
me finish.
But other people don't agree and they're gonna leave us.
No, but I'm gonna get to that, okay? So if we're speaking to the system and giving them some of the data stuff that we might have to do, but we also may need to, if you're comfortable telling your story, or singing your story, or painting your story, we can still do the research in many different ways, okay? So I wanted to put that out there, you know, because a lot of those were very good ideas, and they're not leaving us, they just got other stuff to do.
No.
But I think having that type of approach, Debbie and the rest of us can maybe get a little group together and come up with that list that Jace was talking about, because we're going to have to go ask for resources. Now, we can tell that story. You can tell that story in a painting. You can tell that story in a song. You can tell that story with data. There's many different ways to do that.
The two things that moved the supervisor was this young lady's testimony and Judy. That didn't require a survey. It required, you know, this testimony of these two young women. And that moved them to actually almost say, I'm gonna try. And we didn't have any, but as.
But he's one of 17.
He's one of 17. And not only that, you know, I'm in agreement that we do need a questionnaire. I'm gonna leave it to my professional person to do that, and I want to Zumba and I want to paint, just like this brother, right? Just like, you know, and we know that that's therapeutic.
Right.
So I think that we have, you guys go. Okay. Yes. Yes. Go ahead, guys, go ahead. Go ahead.
She set up, she approached the holistic, he approached the drums, the other one approached the music. The program that the mayor just funded, they do it from peer to peer, and they approach I don't know.
That program works holistically.
It is from
I've
peer
been
to
there.
peer, and they develop, every peer, they develop their own personal safe plan. And we could do research on that and develop our own safe plan. So that's, we could put one of the points on the list.
Develop ambassadors, peer-to-peer ambassadors. Yes?
Which
Yes.
is one of the points on the list of paint, the holistic plan, the peer-to-peer, the drums, the dance,
But guys, with all due respect, I think we're already doing that. Julie's already dancing.
Right.
People are doing peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
What we need is a location, the location is here, okay? So
Right.
let's work it out, let's do it. But we still need the questionnaire. And so what I'm saying to Debbie, basically, is, I'm getting fed up with this shit. We gotta put it together, okay? Let's just fucking do it. You know, and I don't know how that's gonna be done, but let's do it, you know? And let's, yeah.
John.
All right, before we develop communication, our languages within each other, we connected through art. We used to travel villages to villages, trading, instruments and trading different works of art with each other, and that's how we communicated. Nowadays, we modernized. We became a huge village, a modernized village, to where we lost the sense of that communication with each other. So we have this place, and as you guys said, we have a lack of communication with each other because of language boundaries. But we could use art as a medium to connect with each other, viscerally connect with each other, and be able to express ourselves. So maybe I could give out this idea of like inviting people, and as you guys said, we could develop ambassadors to get people to come here and express themselves through art, and with that art, they write a statement, and we could base our research off of that.
Yes. Good idea.
Great.
Good idea.
Armando?
Yes.
I think, everybody's kind of in agreement that we all have our agenda, but nothing's really getting done. And part of the reason nothing's really getting done is because we're not writing down a list of what we want to accomplish. She has an idea of small groups and I believe that if we did the small groups separately from this meeting, this being the business meeting right here, where those separate groups, like the stories, mine and hers and whoever else's, the art, the therapies, the different therapies, if they all broke into smaller groups and met at a different time, on a different day maybe, and then brought their ideas to this meeting and had a set agenda of how we could speak, this team speaks for 15 minutes, this team speaks for 15 minutes, this team speaks for 15 minutes. I believe you guys would get a lot more done that way. And the reason I say that is because I've worked in college settings where that's what we're forced to do. In the ASVC at Ventura College, we're forced to follow a guideline. We're forced to follow the Brown Act. We're forced to follow a set meeting standard, and it helps process go along a lot faster instead of people just saying the same things over and over and over again. No, you break down your groups, you have certain people assigned certain tasks, and those tasks get accomplished outside of the meeting, not inside of the meeting. That's when you come and present what you've accomplished there in the meeting. This should be a business meeting, not everything else meeting. All of us are busy people and don't have time to be sitting here and wasting so many hours just listening to.
Yeah, the one thing I just wanted to say, and then Adon's going to speak, but today we have a different grouping than we had last week when we made a plan and we made an agenda, and we had an agenda for today. And so we were following it. We just didn't have enough for everybody here. So Jim has written up 4 key questions. I've written up a summary of what we've been doing. So we have the basics, But to me, today, we needed to be able to each, in our own way, absorb or communicate or share or think.
That's what the
And so
second
we're
meeting
gonna-
was about.
Yeah, and
Just
so,
share.
and so we've done that before, and now we're doing this today. So I think we can take just inspiration from the fact that we're also passionate about this and we care. And then we come back next week, we'll start again with an agenda, start again with the time periods and the organization. But I think there were enough new and committed people here that it took a reconnecting to begin. Don?
Okay, I just wanted to go back to what you said about, speaking to the system and doing what you do, okay? And I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that you weren't saying that it has to be one or the other.
No.
Okay? This group, if we're gonna be an organization, we do exactly what she said to do. And then we have that part of this group that goes and speaks to the authorities, to the people in power, okay? Because the whole purpose of this whole thing, once again, is to move the system, to change the system. And so it's going to be important that consistent voices speak to power, okay? And as everybody else is doing what they're doing and feeding information to that group to use and maybe coming to do testimony and that sort of thing, we can have a very effective process.
Great.
Can we wrap it up?
Is there anyone else that needed to say something right now?
Yeah, I just want to have a reaction. Just, I don't know, because some people, especially every meeting, people like use their like authorities being, hey, I'm not just like this, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, as an excuse. So people will hear them out, you know. Let's just put that aside and just be here as a normal human being. That's my opinion, you know. Because I feel like I've been downgraded, like because I'm young man, like, you know, like, oh, you know, you got, no, just put aside those, you know, like, because I feel like some people have intentions, you know. Like, if you're a psychologist, if you're a doctor, if you're a, you know, just put that aside. If you're a painter, just put that aside. Just right here, common normal person, just talking about the problem and issue. And I agree with her, because if we have certain groups, like what you said, that we have to build different groups, and then these different groups have different agendas, we can accomplish bigger, you know, agenda, and we can accomplish every problem that we're facing right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so next Friday, again, we'll be here at 5:30.
But Jim, before 5:30, what's the marching orders? What is it that we're going away with and what are we going to bring back? Because that's what attracts people to come back.
And the meeting is with John and the Mental Health Advisory Board is next Thursday.
April 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask for help on the calendar. So I'll do the research for the April 9th meeting.
Lourdes is going to send me everything.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay,
Cool.
yeah.
So that's Thursday for those.
What
Do
would
we
we
know what
like
time
to
that is?
see, what would we like to see as a subject? Do we want to break next week? Do we want to break into, you know, pods, into smaller groups?
Armando, before we do that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's finish the April 9th thing.
Okay.
Because the supervisor asked us, which you and I, we
Yes.
presented.
Yes.
Anyone else wants to attend, we have our 4-point plan.
Right.
Okay, to go and request, he's already figured out 8 to 10 groups, X amount of dollars to do the needs assessment, whatever else, you know, and I'm just gonna ask folks if I can just get your support on doing that. You know, we'll work it out, how it's going to, what it's gonna look like, how it's gonna be done, whether, you know, all that stuff can be worked out within the group. But we'll take what we've accomplished for the last 5 or 6 meetings, okay? We have a lot of new people here today. That's what we're going to market with on Thursday.
See, remember, guys, that what Jim says, when we started originally, one of the consensus points was, we were gonna do a survey. We needed money to do that.
Well, it needs assessment.
A needs assessment.
We didn't identify it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that we were gonna train some young ambassadors and some promotores. That was a baseline idea. That's what we're gonna do. Many other ideas have jumped in, and that's good. But somebody has got to be able to be the lion's tamer here. We've got to know how to, you know, do what we do. And right now, I think that it's really, really important that, you know, some leadership step forward, young leadership step forward and decide, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But what Jim and I and Debbie and Benny and Don are doing, Ruth initially here, Julie, is that we are gonna do the needs assessment. We're gonna ask for money so that we can all have a little bit, to work with. All of us gonna have a little bit to work with. We have some institutional buy-in, and then we proceed. Now.
Let me clarify,
Yes.
the money is not for us necessarily to do it, but for you to do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay? So you will form your groups naturally. The resources are for you to go out and do that community needs assessment information. However you want to do it, we'll work together to come up with a narrative, because we're probably going to provide them with some narrative to do that. And we've heard a lot on how to do the needs assessment tonight, which that's going to be developed, after our meeting on Thursday, and probably another meeting when they come here. So there's going to be plenty of time for us to work that out.
And if I make sure that I have everybody's email from the list, because I'll send everything out. Yeah.
Emails and